Hey everybody, and welcome to Meals with Melissa, where we come up with healthy alternatives for the things that you love to eat. Now, today we're going to tackle a little bit of quarantine snacks. I'm just even flabbergasted I'm saying this. But I know that a lot of people are staying home, and I am going to tell you the struggle for me is I tend to want to eat junk when I'm bored or stressed. And I know both of those things are things that we're dealing with right now when it comes to the situation with the pandemic. So let's give you some healthier alternatives. That way, at least when you're eating those things, you don't feel like you're going completely off the rails. I think that's super important. So today's, what we're making today is super, super simple, guys. It's literally 2 ingredients. I just want to check my cream here real quick because I don't want it to burn. It's 2 ingredients. Now that doesn't mean there's not other ingredients we can add in. There's some different flavors that we can do with it that's super simple. And I've already got part of it going here, but let me talk about what you're going to include with it. I know a lot of you don't care much when it comes to like the sugar-free options of, the sweets and the treats. A lot of times that includes cream cheese, and you don't like that flavor, and I get it. Like, it's really tangy. It leaves kind of a whole different other taste in your mouth. So this one does not include that. We're actually literally just using heavy cream and Lily's dark chocolate chips. Now, I know that she has a couple of different options when it comes to the sugar-free chocolate chips, but what I like best about these is that they use stevia as the sweetener and not sucralose, not sugar alcohols, and not a bunch of other stuff. So again, that's what I love about it. Okay. So this is heating up. I've already got this started. I'm making a half batch again today. And so what I've got in my bowl is 4 ounces, because of course the original recipe requires 8, 4 ounces of Lily's dark chocolate chips. I find them right now, they're on sale at Yolks if you have one of those local to you. So $5.99 I think is what they're charging for it. And normally I find about $6.99 a bag. But I've got that ready in here, ready to go. And then to that I'm going to add a 1/4 cup of heavy cream, heated just to simmering. Now, to that you can add a little bit of flavorings. Today I'm going to add a little bit of almond extract. I tried it yesterday when I made my original batch. I used espresso powder. The flavor really didn't come through on that, but whatever you do, you can add. You can also add vanilla. You could also add cinnamon to that. So super, super simple. Just give it a little extra kick. I'm going to give the almond, because almond flavor tends to come through. I'm just going to put about a 1/4 teaspoon in there into my heavy cream that's heating up. And let's stay back on the burner for just a second and mix that through. And then I'm just going to add it to the chocolate chips. It's that easy, that easy. Okay, so let me make sure it's warm enough because I want it to be able to melt the chocolate chips. And we're going to give it another second and we'll keep talking about it. So once that's done, I'm actually going to throw it in the refrigerator for about 10-15 minutes and let it thicken up. And I'll show you what that's going to look like because I did make some last night so that you can see what it's like. Now, granted, these are not your Godiva truffles or whatever, your Lindt truffles, but it is a really great alternative because you still, if you have a sweet tooth, if you love chocolate like I do, it gives you something where you feel like you're getting what you need without having to add a bunch of calories and a bunch of sugar to it, because of course that is where our problem lies. Okay, so that's coming. I'm just gonna go ahead and, yesterday I burnt the first batch, so you gotta watch it. That's really super important. I'm just using a rubber scraper to make sure that it's not getting too hot and not sticking to the bottom or burning. I think we're just about there. You just wanna go until you see it start to simmer, and that's all you need. You just need it hot enough to melt the chocolate chips, and then we're gonna let it sit, and then we're gonna mix it. It's ganache. That's what it is. We just throw it in the fridge and it becomes a little bit thicker to make that truffle. Now, to the outside of the truffle, you have a couple of options. You can leave it as is. I actually, with my little tiny food processor, because I have more than one now, I know, I like weird toys. I actually cut up some almonds, which I'm going to stick on the outside. Technically, you could do any nut and just roll it in afterwards. You could also use some extra cocoa powder. Now, I like cocoa powder. Don't be adding a bunch of sugar to it. The sweet comes from the stevia in the Lily's chocolate chips. But I like the cocoa powder, but it can be a little overwhelming and a little too bitter if you're not careful. All right, perfect. Turn that off. So I'm going to dump this into my chocolate chips, and I'm just going to let it sit for a minute and just do its job, which is to melt, heat up and melt those chocolate chips. Fortunately, Lily's chocolate chips melt super fast. They work great. They work great for that. I know there's a couple of other brands out there. I found a couple at Walmart. I don't particularly love the flavor of those. The white chocolate chips are great if I'm trying to make like the energy balls with the little the cranberry, the dried cranberries, those are fine, but they're not my favorite. I don't particularly love the texture and how they taste. So, so far these are my favorite. Like I said, she makes a couple of different options. I think there's like a semi-sweet along with the dark chocolate. They also make candy bars. Now, let me just tell you, just because these are sugar-free does not make them carb-free. So if you're trying to go low carb, if you're doing keto, which is not my favorite, but you know, it's a thing, these will not necessarily keep you in ketosis. So keep that in mind when you're making them. Okay, so as these melt, I'm just gonna start, look at that, see they're already melted. Isn't that pretty chocolate? All right, so you're just gonna keep going until they're nice and well incorporated. And it'll just look like chocolate liquid. Not a bad thing, right? Okay, so once this is done, I'm gonna stick it in the fridge for a few minutes and let that, you know, thicken up just a little bit, because I gotta be able to handle it with my hands. Now, if you have a melon baller, that might be a great option, because once we're done, we're gonna actually roll it into little balls and make that truffle itself. Probably could have let this sit for a minute longer before I started to stir, but that's okay. We're gonna leave that for a second, and I'm gonna show you what this is gonna look like. Perfect, okay, so put it in the fridge, covered it. Now, I actually recommend that if you're gonna form it into balls, do it you know, within reasonable amount of time after you've made them. Otherwise, the ganache or the mixture tends to get pretty solid and it's hard to work with. But if you make it and it starts to get a little too soft too fast, make sure you throw it back in the fridge for a minute. It'll just take another second. So, okay, it's not the most prettiest round thing I've ever made. And I have to admit that it's probably still a little too frozen or a little too hard for me to get the nuts to stick on it. But we're gonna try it anyway. Cocoa powder might do a better job, but either way, I'm actually just gonna push the nuts into it because I want a little bit of, it just gives it that extra crunch so you have an extra texture to it. And I love that. Had a thought while I was making these this morning too, that maybe you could also throw a little bit of PB2 powder into your cream as you're making it, just for some different flavor if you're a peanut butter fan like I am. And I just saw one for a sugar-free, almost like a Reese's peanut butter cup. I know there's some of those out there. That might not appeal to all of you, but it does appeal to me. So, okay, so the nuts are not sticking super fabulous. Like I said, it got a little, this was the mixture I left in last night, so it's a little harder than I want it to be. But the thought is there, and it's really not that difficult. Plus, if I have to eat it with a spoon, I'm okay with that too. It's chocolate. So hopefully that helps. I really want you guys to be staying healthy and happy, and I want your heads to stay healthy as well. So make sure that you're keeping yourself busy, that you're keeping a schedule. I know you're probably around all your littles and it's starting to drive you crazy. There's a lot of things you can do out there. Find a new hobby. I'm doing a lot of research and reading, but I still get up every day, and I'm gonna be honest, my goal is 16,000 steps every day. So it's happening. So just keep moving. We'll get through this. We can do it together. You know, band as a community, I love that part of it. That's how we're gonna make it through. So you guys try this. Let me know what you think. If you have a great recipe, let me know. Either leave a comment below or you can message me directly through Fillmore Fitness. I love it. I love getting some great ideas. A lot of these come from my daughter Aspen as well. So have an incredible day, you guys. We'll talk soon. Stay healthy, my friends.